Hi, colleagues, and welcome to week 7, our final week of business proposal design, ORM456. This is David Brewer. It's been a pleasure to facilitate the discussions and speak to you in this way. A couple of you by phone, many of you by text and email over the course of this class. I pray that it has been of benefit to you. This is our final Brewers bullets, the 3 things we need to be thinking about from what we've been doing and what we're doing this week, and then a look ahead. I don't generally record a Brewers bullets after week 7 because you guys probably don't care at that point. You just want to know what your grades are and any feedback that I might have for you. So this is our last one. Let's get to it. Bullet number 1, last week we had some pretty fun discussion about presentations, good ones and bad ones, what works well and what doesn't. Heard some funny stories and some horrible stories about our own presentations and ones that we've observed from other people. And in the process, I think, picked up some really good tips about knowing your material. It's very helpful to know what it is that you're talking about and how you want to say it. It's also just as important to know your audience. What are they looking for? What are they listening for? Why are they listening to the presentation? And be able to speak their language, speak it in a way that is effective for them. And practice. As much as possible, practice. Some of you talked about practicing the whole presentation, using note cards, doing other types of things. Those are all very good. I still recommend, in addition to those, practicing little chunks of it, practicing one slide, especially places where you're not as familiar with the content or places where the language doesn't come naturally to you. Practice that multiple times until you get the words right, until you get the tone of voice right and the pacing right, until you know it is what it is that you want to say and how you want to say it. And you're practiced enough that when you go live on video or in front of a group, you know exactly how to do that and you're confident and can carry it through. That's bullet number 1. Bullet number 2, this week you have your final reports and presentations to do. And I hope that's not news to you. That would be really bad. So as you're working on the big things this week, especially focused on the content in the for the report, in the introduction section, make sure that you set things up, that you explain what the organization is, what the issue is, etc. Go into the data analysis, review the research. What did you find out online about similar organizations or similar concepts? What did you find out from the interviews and the surveys? And then you move into your conclusions and your recommendations. Please remember to set up those sections so that it's a logical flow. So you tell us what the issues are, what the data is related to that issue, and then because of that, these are my conclusions. These are the themes that I draw out. Therefore, here's my recommendation, right? So make sure that you have that nice and smooth, because that's the big thing. That's the content-based thing. As you're focusing on those things, though, don't forget some of the little things that trip people up. When you have interviews, if you've conducted interviews, make sure you list each of those interviews as its own source and indicate to us whether that's an in-person interview or an email exchange, etc. APA format is slightly different for those. Interviews are each interview is its own source, and you need to cite those whenever you're quoting or referring to somebody that you got information from in the paper. For the academic portion, you don't necessarily have to cite them for the proposal that you might turn in your place of business, but for class you do need to have APA citations for those. If you've done a survey and collected a group of data, again, not individual comments, but you've collected a block of data, quantitative typically, the survey is one source. And you can cite that source as many times as you want, all the different numbers that you get, comments, etc. But those are not interviews, those are not individual sources. A survey is one source on your reference page. You will want to make sure that you have at least 12 sources total, including interviews, surveys, online sources, documents, reference documents that you've used, etc. That's the expectation to do something comprehensive like this. You need to have a good range of sources. And in your video presentation, I strongly recommend doing it like a real presentation. Like this is the one that you're going to give to your place of business. Don't treat this like an assignment where I can be a little goofy, or if things don't work out, that's okay. Use this as practice. So we don't expect it necessarily to be exactly perfect, but treat it seriously. Do the actual presentation, refer to your content, talk about your slides. Most of you are doing really good research on the issue that you have identified for your organization. I highly recommend that you use this video presentation as a chance to practice what you want to say to your employer, because many of you should have the opportunity to give this presentation to your employer. You can hand in the report, try and schedule a meeting where you give this presentation, you share the data. I think it could have a positive impact on your workplace, on your coworkers, on the financial bottom line, on company culture, etc. So use the video presentation as a good practice for that. Number 3, last bullet. The last bullet of the term. I'm very sad. Last bullet is looking ahead. The skills that you've been working on in here are extremely valuable in any workplace. If you have the ability in any workplace to identify an issue, to ask for permission to research that issue, to conduct the research effectively, and then to present the data analysis, the conclusions, and your recommendation, you will have made yourself a much more valuable employee to any employer, to any church, to any place you volunteer. Because what you'll show is, I can think about an issue, I can see that there's an issue, I want to solve it for the sake of the organization, and here's how I'm going to go about doing that. You get permission, you conduct that research without taking up your whole job probably, and at the end they get a recommendation for ways that they can improve how they do business or product development or whatever it is that the work is. Employers will find that extremely valuable. You're contributing added value. It's a value add. And that you should be able to carry forward from this course. That's why you may think I've been picky, or you may think I've pushed you as we work through this course. And that's why, because these are skills. Some of the classes we take, we know, they're a little more theoretical. We think, how would I apply this? This course is not that. This course is very practical. You should be able to use the individual skills and the packet of skills that you've practiced in here moving forward with your employer. You can do it. I look forward to seeing your final reports and your final presentations. They are due Sunday night. If you think you might need an extension, please notify me in advance, because I'm under a deadline to get all the grades in as well. So if I don't hear from you before Sunday night and then you request an extension, it's pretty likely that I'm going to say, I probably can't do that because I need to get on these. Remember, I'm grading 5 20 to 30 page reports and 5 15, 12, 15, however long your presentations are, minute presentations. So I've got plenty of hours of work ahead of me, and I want to make sure I give your work the attention that it deserves. So any questions, text me, 503-422-1736. Email me. I'll be checking email a couple of times a day this week, so I can get back to people really quickly if there are any concerns. And I'll see you online. Thanks so much.